If you lie down at night trying to use Neville's SATS to manifest a desire, getting sleepier is not the goal. The mistake is treating sleepiness as the measurement. You settle, you build the scene. Then one of two things happens. Either you are still awake much later, moving the furniture around inside your head, correcting the face, changing the words, and checking whether it feels real enough. Or you are gone. Morning arrives, and you cannot find the moment when you disappeared. Both feel like failure. Neither is. They are the two sides of a narrower condition Neville described. Your body is quiet, you could move if you chose to, but you do not want to, and your attention can still follow one direction without strain. The drowsiness test will help you recognize that usable window, practice it without turning bedtime into an examination, and know what to change when you keep passing through it. Think of your attention as a pair of hands on a steering wheel. On one side, you are gripping. The car goes where you point it, but your forearms are burning. You are still fully occupied with the physical room. You notice the pillow beneath your neck. You wonder how long you have been lying there. You rebuild the imaginal scene every few seconds and ask whether you are doing it properly. That is not a failure of imagination. It is simply effort. You still have direction, but you are fighting to maintain it. On the other side, your hands have left the wheel. A sentence begins and never finishes. The scene breaks into unrelated fragments. Attention is moving, but no longer in a direction you selected. That is not failure either. You fell asleep. Sleep did exactly what sleep does. The useful condition sits between those two sides. Your hands are resting on the wheel. Nothing is clenched, but the car still goes where you point it. The body has become quiet, while direction remains yours. Body quietness and attention loss are not the same event. They usually happen close together, which makes them seem like one switch. The aim is not to vanish. The aim is to recognize the interval when the body has settled and your hands are still on the wheel. Neville gave that interval a remarkably ordinary description. Neville was remarkably practical about this point. In No One to Change But Self, he advised choosing a comfortable chair or lying flat, then allowing the body to relax completely. He did not recommend strain, a painful posture, or a dramatic ritual. He said to choose a position of physical ease. Then he described the condition in ordinary language. You could move if you wanted to, but you do not want to. You could open your eyes if you wanted to, but you do not want to. Notice what remains present. Choice remains. You have not lost control of attention. The body is resting, but awareness is still available. Elsewhere, Neville described this as being attentive without effort. That phrase matters because it contains both halves of the state. Attentive means you can choose a direction. Without effort means you are no longer wrestling the mind into position. In consciousness is the only reality. He made the boundary even clearer. Drowsiness helps because it favors easy attention, but it should not be pushed to the point where you can no longer direct your thoughts. So the internet question, "How sleepy should I be?" has a more useful answer than a number, a brainwave, or a mysterious sensation. You should be relaxed enough that attention no longer feels like work, but awake enough that attention still belongs to you. That is the window. Knowing the words, however, is not the same as recognizing the condition in your own body. For that, we need a test. The drowsiness test is not a phrase Neville used. It is our simple way of organizing the signs he gave. It has 3 questions: body, attention, and effort. First, test the body. Could you move or open your eyes if you deliberately chose to, while genuinely preferring to remain still? This does not mean your body must feel numb, distant, or frozen. You are not waiting for a spectacular physical event. You are noticing that movement remains possible but has stopped asking for your attention. If you are adjusting the pillow every few seconds, tightening your jaw, or waiting impatiently for something to happen, let the body settle a little longer. If you cannot even remember asking the question, sleep may already have carried you past the window. Second, test attention. Choose one neutral sentence, such as, "I am resting here." Can you remain with that one sentence gently, not chanting it rapidly, not fighting every other thought? Simply knowing which direction you have chosen and returning to it without an argument. If you can still choose the sentence, your hands remain on the wheel. If the words dissolve into a dream you did not select, you are moving beyond the usable interval. Third, test effort. Does holding that direction feel quieter than constructing a scene did a few minutes ago? At the beginning, you may feel like a stage manager running behind curtains, moving every object into place. In the usable window, the scene becomes less like a production you are managing and more like a place you are allowing yourself to enter. It does not need to become perfectly vivid. It does not need to feel more real than the physical room. And it does not need to produce a surge of emotion. The test is much simpler. The body prefers stillness. Attention remains steerable. Direction requires less strain. When those three signs meet, you have found the condition this episode is teaching you to recognize. This does not prove that an external result will appear. It tells you that you are in a workable condition for practicing Neville's method. And there is one setting where many people make that condition unnecessarily difficult to learn. Here is where many sincere students make the work harder. They wait until the most emotionally charged moment of the day. The room is dark. Tomorrow is approaching. The desire feels urgent. They are exhausted, but they also believe this session must be the one they finally perform correctly. Now, bedtime is no longer a place of rest. It has become an examination room. One part of the mind tries to fall asleep, another part stands over it with a clipboard. Neville offered a clue that removes some of this pressure. He described creating a regular interval for the drowsy state. He even gave the example of practicing at a chosen hour until the body became accustomed to settling then. The deeper principle is not that everyone must use a particular hour. It is that the state can be learned as a condition instead of chased only at the moment of exhaustion. If bedtime works naturally for you, use bedtime. But if you repeatedly fall asleep before you can direct attention, or remain awake because the desire feels too important, rehearse the threshold at another quiet time. Sit in a comfortable chair. Recline if you prefer. Let this first rehearsal be about recognizing the window, not forcing an outcome through it. You are learning how a lighter grip feels. You do not have to steer the whole future on the first attempt. Here is the complete practice. Choose a quiet interval when you are not completely exhausted. Put the phone beyond easy reach. Sit or recline in a position that does not require your body to fight for comfort. Close your eyes and allow the larger muscles to release. Let the shoulders lower. Let the tongue rest. Let the weight of the arms be carried by the chair or the bed. Do not begin with your desire yet. For the moment, use the neutral sentence, I am resting here. Every so often, apply the three questions. Could I move? While preferring not to, can I still choose this one sentence? Does choosing it feel quieter than it did when I began? Do not fire the questions at yourself like an interrogation. Let them pass through the mind gently, the way you might check whether rain has stopped by listening at a window. When the body prefers stillness, the sentence remains available, and attention feels less effortful. Introduce one small implication of your fulfilled desire. Neville advised selecting an event that would naturally follow fulfillment. Keep it restricted. One act, one phrase, one small moment that would belong to the life in which the desire is already settled. If constructing a scene wakes you up again, make it smaller. You might use a short phrase of gratitude, spoken inwardly as if the matter were complete. Neville specifically offered a brief phrase of thankfulness as an alternative. The point is not the number of details. The point is that the direction implies fulfillment and can be held with minimum effort. Remain with it while it feels natural to do so. If you drift into sleep, let sleep come. If you are practicing in a chair and decide to end the session, open your eyes without grading the experience. Do not ask whether the scene was vivid enough. Do not search the room for a sign. Do not demand an emotional climax. Your immediate task was calibration. To notice the moment when the body became quiet and your hands remained on the wheel. If you fall asleep almost immediately, move the rehearsal earlier. Use a comfortable chair rather than waiting until your body is desperate for sleep. You are not trying to defeat tiredness. You are giving yourself enough room to notice the transition. If you remain completely alert, remove the desire from the first part of the practice. Let the body settle before asking imagination to do anything. A scene loaded with urgency can tighten the very attention you are trying to soften. If pictures are difficult, do not turn SATS into a test of visual talent. Use one brief phrase that implies completion. Let its meaning not its cinematic quality, determine the direction. If the mind wanders, return gently. Neville's standard was controlled attention without effort. A violent return contradicts half of that instruction. And if you miss the window, use the session as information. You may discover that the body settles before the mind. You may discover that a certain posture sends you directly to sleep. You may discover that you begin the scene too soon and spend the entire session arranging it. Each observation makes the next attempt less mysterious. This is a practice, not a verdict on your spiritual ability. The first success is not waking tomorrow to transformed circumstances. The first success is recognizing a condition that was previously invisible to you. The body became quieter. Attention remained available. Direction required less effort. Once you can recognize that window, you can bring a chosen assumption into it without so much strain. And when you pass beyond it into sleep, you no longer need to treat that as failure. You know what happened. Your hands left the wheel. Nothing was taken from you, and the practice was not wasted. So do not ask whether you became sleepy enough to disappear. Ask whether the body became quiet while attention remained yours to direct. That is the window you are learning to recognize. It is not a deeper trance. It is a lighter grip. If your mind keeps returning to the old condition after the session ends, we have prepared the Manifesting Anchor Guide to help you establish a steadier point of return. Go to the description below this video, open the very first link, and get the Manifesting Anchor Guide. And if the condition you keep waiting to see change is your bank balance, watch your money isn't coming. It's already here. You're just blind. It shows why waiting for money can keep you standing outside the state you are trying to occupy. It is on your screen now.